Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. We are starting our history book, grade 7, and before we start learning the first chapter of history, let's recall the definition of history. What is history? You have already learned the definition of history in grade 7, and I'm going to define it again for recalling it. And the history is record of events of the past. What do we learn by studying history? We learn about past. But a question arises in our mind that why is it important to study history? Why are we studying history? By studying history, we come to know about variety of cultures, their diversities and their similarities. Means there are many diversities among different cultures and there are different similarities as well. So we come to know about the living patterns of different peoples of different times. And another cause of studying history is we come to know about the rise and fall of different nations and different empires. And we learn about different religions, different languages, different political systems and economic systems which developed during different time periods. And what is the benefit of studying all these things? We learn from the mistakes of the people of the past, and we also learn from their achievements. It means that our past helps us to shape our present and future. We are not going to repeat those mistakes if we want to develop, and we are following the patterns which the people in the past followed to have different accomplishments in their lives. So past is a guide to our future and present. Now the next thing is, what is the time span of recorded history? The time span of recorded history is divided into 3 parts. The time span is about 5,000 years. Means our recorded history covers the time of 5,000 years, and this is divided into 3 main parts. Number 1 is ancient history, number 2 is medieval history, and number 3 is modern history. And you have read about ancient history in class 6, and you will study medieval history in class 7th, and most probably the modern history will be taught to you in class 8th. So let's recall the ancient history. The examples of ancient history you read in class 6 are Egyptian civilization, which developed in Egypt, Babylonian civilization, which developed in Iraq, and Chinese civilization, which developed in China. The examples of these the civilization are Zhou dynasty and Shang dynasty, which you read in class 6. And the time span of ancient history is 3000 BC to 650 AD. Now what is BC and what is AD? You have already learned these concepts in class 6, but I'm going to repeat the full form of these abbreviations here. The full form of BC is before Christ, means the calendar which was used before the birth of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam, and AD after Christ, it means the calendar which is being used now from the birth of from the beginning of the birth year of Hazrat Isa alayhi salam. And now the medieval history. The medieval history is also called the Middle Ages, and it covers the time period of the European history from 5th century to 15th century. And about medieval history you are going to learn in class 7, grade 7. Now the modern history is divided into 2 parts: the early history and the late modern history. In the early modern history, this history started around early 16th century AD, and the late modern history started around mid 18th century, and this also refers to the European history. Now we are starting chapter number 1 of our book.